Several weeks ago, we started a small series about tefillah, about prayer. We spoke about the essence of prayer, the source of where it all began, many stories to prove the power of prayer. And we went on to the structure of prayer as it is divided during the day, the afternoon, the evening, very special prayers for certain occasions, including Shabbat and the holidays. And in the prayer, of course, we find that it's further subdivided into different parts. There are certain parts that deal with personal requests, parts that deal with praises to God, to the Almighty, parts that give tribute or give thanks and appreciation to the Almighty. And when we talk about prayer, even though prayer begins with, you can say, Modeh ani lefanecha, with the very first words that you say when you get up in the morning, the various blessings that you say, the prayer, the ikar ha-tfilah, the real prayer, is really the Shema Yisrael and the Tfilat Amidah, which we'll be speaking about today. The Shema Yisrael is the acceptance upon oneself, the yoke of heaven, the acceptance upon oneself, the Torah and the mitzvot, which is done on a daily basis. And then the Tfilat Amidah, the Shmona Esrei, which includes many requests and praises to Hashem, all concentrated in one prayer. But before we get into the Tfilat Amidah and Tfilat Shmona Esrei, I want to talk a little bit, want to emphasize a point that was not emphasized enough perhaps for those of you who were not here before, and that is that the Almighty actually listens to us when we speak to Him, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a formal way when we are in a Bet HaKnesset. It could be in one's home, it could be at any time of the day. You can go to your own corner in your own language with your own words and express yourself to Him, and He listens. That's a very important part of our tradition. However, there is a difference between those requests and those prayers that are being made today after the Khurban, the destruction, and when we had a temple. There is a difference in the prayer if you are in a shul or at home. There is a difference in the prayer if you are here or in Israel. And even in Israel, there's a difference whether you are in Bnei Brak, Yerushalayim, or at the Kotel HaMaravi, where the Bet HaMikdash once stood. So there are differences of where you are and where you stand. But nevertheless, one should not despair, no matter where he is, even if you're standing right now on the wall of China, right? And you want to turn to Hashem and pray to Him and make a request, He'll listen to you, even if you say it in Chinese. As long as you understand what you're saying. Because as we will see again and again, the most important part of the prayer is the quality. And the quality has to do with kavanah. Kavanah means, do you mean what you say? Are you concentrated only in prayer? Or are you doing something else as you're praying? Checking your phone, as some people do, unfortunately, talking to other people while in shul, listening to the blessings. Instead, you should be answering Amen. So if one treats prayer properly, if one handles it correctly, it can make a tremendous big difference in whether it reaches its destination or not. In the very beginning, when we spoke about Birkot HaShachar, the very first blessings that we make, I explained how many of those blessings were said once upon a time, gradually. As a person woke up, as he got out of bed, he would say it at home. From the very first blessing of giving wisdom to the rooster, being able to distinguish between night and day. And I explained that is not necessarily only a rooster, it's that the human being has been endowed with enough wisdom and intelligence to be able to know right from wrong. And that's a very important point, so no one should ever come up with the excuse, he's not intelligent enough, he doesn't know enough. Right? Everybody has been given enough intelligence, as long as they're healthy, of course, to be able to serve the Almighty, to be able to express himself, each one according to his level. So as we were going down the blessings that are said in the morning, we talked about the various needs that we have and how we shouldn't take them for granted. And that is part of why we say blessings, why we say what we say in the prayer. So we should take nothing for granted, especially the blessing when you come out of the restroom, which is a very powerful blessing, that to give thanks to the Almighty that Baruch Hashem, the kidneys are working, right? Because if you don't know what it's like Go to a hospital and see what it's like to be on dialysis. So all these blessings are very special, very unique. They were composed al-pi ruach hakodesh, through divine inspiration. Some of them were even put together through the prophets. At various stages in our history, additions were made over time, changes were made over time, changes because sometimes the changes came about through Kabbalah. The introduction of the Kabbalah that made some changes, and that is why, as I explained, we have various nusachim or nuschaot, various versions in certain portions or certain parts of the prayer. But the Tfilat, Hamidah, and the Shema Yisrael are pretty much all the same amongst all the communities, with a few exceptions. And I'm going to go with you over some of the exceptions. I'm going to actually give you an example of where you can see the difference between Temanim, Italians, Ashkenaz, Fardim, Hasidim, in how they chose different words for different reasons. Whereas last week we saw differences in the pronunciation towards the end of the lecture, right? Today you will be introduced to actual differences in the nusach of the words. And for a variety of reasons that has happened throughout the ages. Even though a good portion of the Siddur was put together right after the Churban Abayit, and some of it even before the Churban, before the destruction of the temple, there were certain parts that were added later. And as a result of the diaspora, the Jews being scattered all over the world, you have the introduction of small changes, preferences of certain words, or perhaps further elaboration of certain words that were no longer understood, or because the times have changed, or because there was some imminent decree. So many things occurred throughout the Galut that brought about all these little changes. So it's not like we have independent schools of Sidurim emerging. We have a basic Sidur, which means the prayers are being organized. We have the halachot of what to say, how to say, when to say, during the time of the Gemara and the Mishnah. So we have quite a bit of that already in place. But you do have some variations as a result of the times and the place. One beracha, however, that I somehow forgot to mention in the Birkot HaShachar is a very important beracha that if you understand it, it will help you also understand the essence of Tfilat Shmoneh Esrei of the Amidah. And that is Hamechin Mitzadei Gaver. I believe we skipped that blessing unintentionally. Hamechin Mitzadei Gaver, when we say that in the morning, we're saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that prepares for us our steps. You think you know where you're going? No. You intend to go one place, but you may end up going somewhere else. You intended to go this way, you ended up going a different way. Even our footsteps, even the direction that we take in life, ultimately is not completely in our hands. But when I say direction, I'm meaning the physical direction. The spiritual direction of what we do with ourselves, whether we perform mitzvot, how we behave, that's of course up to us, to our discretion. But where we end up going, what job we eventually take, who do we eventually meet, all of that is a mechin mitzadei gaver, is in that blessing that we say Hashem is the one that paves the way. He's the one that puts us on a particular path for whatever reason that only He knows. And throughout the tefillah, this is said in different words. Rabot mahashavot belevish v'atzat Hashem hi takum. Many are the thoughts of man, but the atzat Hashem, Hashem's counsel, Hashem's ideas, hi takum. That is eventually what's going to happen. In other words, we may plan, we may have ideas of what we want to do. Does it always mean that that's the way it's going to be? Sometimes our plans are frustrated. Sometimes they don't come out the way we wanted, the way we anticipated. That's because Hashem decided differently. We make the attempt, we make the ishtadlut, we make the effort, but in the end, His plan is what counts. He's the one that has a plan. It does not mean we should not plan. You plan. You need to plan. But if it does not happen the way you wanted, don't be disappointed. Hashem machin mitzadei gaver. He's the one that leads us to where we need to be. As the rabbis tell us in the Gemara, and the Zohar says also in Aramaic, Ragloi de barinash inun arvin le latar de mitba'in taman movilin yate. One's feet are like his guarantors. You know what a guarantor is? He guarantees the loan. One's feet are his guarantors. They take him to where he belongs. They will take you against your will. If you belong somewhere, if you need to go somewhere, for some reason you have to be there, your feet will take you there. And this is, of course, an idea that not everybody thinks about every day. So that is why in our prayer, when we say certain words, hopefully these words will teach us and remind us that we're totally in the hands of Hashem. Except for the area of Yirat Shamayim, the fear of heaven, of course, which is where free will is in our hand to decide what we make of ourselves. But everything else, there's some great master plan. And he knows what he's doing. So now we're going to begin with the Birkat Amidah, as it is called by the Sfaradim. Ashkenazim chose to call it Shmona Esrei, because that is the way it was originally called. It was composed originally of 18 blessings. Now, as you can see on this first presentation, the Shmona Esrei is divided into 3 parts. This is perhaps the most important prayer of the whole prayer book, besides the Kriyat Shema, as I said in the beginning. And it's divided into 3 parts. The first 3 blessings are Birkot Shevach. They are blessings of praise, praising Hashem. And those blessings are Birkat Avot, Birkat Gevurot, and Birkat Kiddushat Hashem. And for those of you who don't remember, I'll remind you that in the very beginning, the first beracha, or the first actually 3 berachot, have only to do with praising Hashem. It begins with avot. In other words, we say Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, V'lo Yaakov. That is why it's called the blessing of our forefathers. But it really begins to describe who Hashem is. We are about to approach Him, to speak to Him, to make requests of Him. We need to become familiar with Him. So in the very, very beginning of the Amidah, of the Shmona Esrei, we are familiarized by who He is. He's Kel Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Konei Hakol, Zocher Chasdei Avot, right? Melech Ozer Moshiach. He's the one that can help us. He's the one that is kind. He is the God of our forefathers, right? We're describing and giving praise to all these great abilities and attributes that He has. So we're praising Him and at the same time describing His attributes, which leads us to the second beracha, Birkat Gevurot. Gevurot is because it's called Ata Gibor, Le'olam Hashem, V'chayei metim atarav lo'oshia. And in the Gevurot, we talk about the greatest Gevurah of all, which we're going to see very soon, which is Mechayei metim, to bring back those who have died. So Tchiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead, is mentioned already in this blessing as a Shevach, as a praise to Hashem, and as a form of Gevurah. In the midst of this, of course, we talk about the rain or the dew, depending on the season of the year, and how He helps those who are falling, those who are in prison, and how He will, B'ezrat Hashem, fulfill His promise to those who are dead in bringing them back. That's the second beracha. The third beracha of this portion of the Amidah called Shevach is the Kiddushat Hashem, where we say Ata Kadosh U'Shimcha Kadosh. Right? Akel Kadosh. In other words, in sanctifying Hashem and in accepting Him as our King. In other words, we turn to Him because He's our King. We turn to Him because He's holy and He's above everybody else. And we therefore only turn to Him and we turn to no one else. These are the first 3 berachot. The second part of the Amidah, which we're going to go through more in detail, is called Brachot Emtzaiyot. Now the middle blessings are personal requests, all of them. All of them are various kinds of requests in all areas of life. These blessings we do not make on Shabbat. That's why on Shabbat you have Sheva. You don't have Shmona Esrei. You don't have 18. You don't have the middle blessings. Rosh Hashanah you have 9, because you have Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot. In other words, you have the mention of the blowing of the shofar, of that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rules in the world, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the world. We want to be reminded before Him that He should judge us for a good year, right? So Rosh Hashanah, it's a little bit modified. So Shabbat, it's modified. On the holidays, it's a little bit modified. So this applies during the week. In the week, we have these middle blessings that are basically requests in every part, in every aspect of our life. And the last three are the brachot that deal with hoda'ah, with giving thanks to Hashem. After you've made your requests, well, say thank you. Right? After you've made all your personal requests, you give thanks to Hashem in the Birkat HaAvodah, Birkat Hoda'ah, and the Sim Shalom. So perhaps we're going to go through a little bit of them so you can get an idea of what is actually being said. Here you have an example with a few changes. I'm not going to go through them too much, of the Birkat HaGevurot, where in the Siddur you will find only a few changes because it depends on the season, whether it's the winter or the summer, whether you're going to say Morida Tal, Mashiv Aroch, Morida Geshem, because some of the praises do change. And as a result of that, you will find in every Siddur, either in parentheses or in some small letters, what to say if it's a different season. But otherwise, these berachot are quite similar in all the nuschot, in all the nusachim, in all the versions of the Siddurim. Let's go over to brachot ha'imtza'iyot. What I did over here, if you can all see, I put together 13 of the requests that are said in the middle. Now you're wondering to yourself, wait a minute, 13. If we add the first 3, that's 16. And if we add the last 3, that's 19. And I just called this Shmonesre, 18. So how do we have 19? So I'm going to talk about this 19th blessing, which it's not number 19 in the order, but it's in the middle of these middle berachot, these brachot emtza'iyot. It was added a little bit later on. We're talking about a Tfilat Amidah, remember, that is being composed for the most part right after the destruction of the Second Temple. It is in lieu, in place of the Korbanot, as it is all the Tefillah is in place of the Korbanot. We used to have a tremendous avodah, tremendous service when we had a temple. We don't have that service. So instead of that, we have this avodah shebalev that is done with the heart. And Tfilat Amidah, which is being composed about that time, is completely keneged korbanot. In other words, you have, even though you don't have the actual mention of the korbanot in this prayer book, but the various requests, the various praises, the various ways of giving thanks to Hashem is pretty much the essence of the korbanot, because in korbanot what you had was confession, you had admitting guilt and remorse, which we will see is also part of this, and a further request for teshuvah. So a great deal of that is found in the Tfilat Amidah. So let's begin with the first request. The first request in the Amidah and the Shmoneh Esrei has to do with asking for Chokhmah. As the Beracha says, Ata chonel nadam dat. We finish with the third blessing of giving praise to Hashem, Akel HaKadosh, and we're going on to Ata chonel nadam dat. Ata chonel nadam dat, in other words, you're the one that gives intelligence to men. And we're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to open our mind, to enlighten us, to show us the right path, so that we should be able to make the right decisions. That is what we're supposed to have kavanah when we say these words. Even though people have a high IQ, it doesn't mean necessarily that they have chokhmah, right? They have the mental ability. That is what that a high IQ means, the mental ability to be able to discern, to be able to figure out certain things. But Chokhmah, Binah, Vadat are various levels of understanding of Hashem, various levels of understanding the mitzvot. And at the very basic level, Chokhmah means intelligence, or means actual information. You're the one that provides it, even though we are the one that make the effort. We don't want to be wrong, and we want to properly understand what we learn, and we want to be able to adapt that which we learn. That's called da'at. According to the Kabbalah, Chokhmah is what you first learn. Binah, you further understand it, and da'at, you apply it. You internalize it. So that is the highest level of chokhmah. What good is all the chokhmah if you don't put it to good use? So we're making this request of Hashem that He should show us the way to learn from the right people, to learn the right things, to be able to serve Him properly. Why do we need Hashem's help for this? The answer is simple. We have a Yetzer Hara that is competing, that is trying to interfere. There are many forces out there, many distractions, many problems, many worries, anxieties, issues in life. And here we're asking Hashem, please don't let those things interfere, don't let them disturb. Help us get where we want to. So it's not just having the chokhmah, it's not just the learning, it's enabling us to be able to achieve what we need to achieve in understanding Hashem so that we should be able to serve Him properly. The next beracha has to do with teshuvah. Hashivin avinu toratecha. People make mistakes. Okay, so we weren't such a chachamim. We asked for chokhmah, but we didn't behave like one. We didn't do the right thing. We made a mistake. It happens. We're only human. So Hashem says, fine. So say I'm sorry. And ask me to forgive you. And I will do so. And when we say these words, what are we reminding ourselves? It's only human to make a mistake. But we have a Kadosh Baruch Hu who's forgiving, who gives us a second chance. This is an important idea because if anybody is whatsoever involved with missionaries, either as a victim or fighting them, he will know that these people prey on the innocent, on the naive. Oh, you guys have no way out of sin. You got to believe in you know who. You need blood. No, you don't. Our Father tells us that we can say I'm sorry, not to the priest, chas v'shalom, to Him. And you have to mean it sincerely. You can't just say I'm sorry and then go do it again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu rotzeh b'teshuvah. He wants the teshuvah. Do you know that some of our greatest leaders made mistakes intentionally? Not that they intentionally made the mistake. Hashem allowed them to make the mistake intentionally so that they should be an example for us that it is possible to do teshuvah, including David HaMelech. All kinds of incidents that occurred to the greatest of our people, just lelamed otanu et teshuvah, to teach us, yes, this happened, you can do teshuvah, no matter what happened. The next request is selicha. So here we're asking for the teshuvah itself. That means we're committing to do teshuvah. We're not just asking to do, we're committing ourselves to do teshuvah, and you will accept our teshuvah. The third request is a selicha. After we've embarked on the way of teshuvah, Kadosh Baruch Hu, please then forgive us. Can you tear up our old records? Can you erase the past? Can you allow us to start from scratch, a new chapter? Hanuna marbel isloach, He's continuously forgiving. He does so even if it happened many times, as long as you do it from all your heart. Very important part of the tefillah is the selicha. There's a lot that is said concerning the selicha, even after we finish with the Shmoneh Esrei, with the tahanun, where we make additional requests and additional prayers for Hashem's forgiveness. Then comes the Geulah. A very important part of the prayer consists of asking Hashem for the Geulah, for the final redemption. This is not only because we want it, because of course we want to get out of this galut. We remind ourselves that ultimately HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one that's capable of bringing this about. We remind ourselves about this important idea in Judaism so that we should not become too comfortable where we are in the galut. Geulah as a concept is very important to Judaism. And this is true even if we had a Bet HaMikdash. Bet HaMikdash is in place. So why do we need Geulah? We need Geulah for the whole world. We need the world to be redeemed from the evil. Even though we emphasize Goel Yisrael, He's redeeming the Jewish people, because obviously we're focused on the most immediate and imminent Geulah that we're waiting for. We're in the Galut. We want to get out of here. We want to go to Israel, B'ezrat Hashem. So Geulah, very important idea, that we should never give up hope, even if it's taken so many years, even though unfortunately right now we're having again Tisha B'Av that we need to fast for. Hopefully we won't have to, but that's the way it's been. We're going towards 1941 years now from the destruction of the Second Temple. 1941. It's been a while. So we need to be excited about the Geulah. We have to ask for it. Then comes Refuah. Refuah is Refaenu Hashem v'nerafeh, asking Hashem for healing. Now, as we're saying these berachot, can you add or include some other personal request here of your own? So I may have mentioned it in the past that one is not allowed to be mishaneh de matbe'ah. One is not allowed to make changes of his own in the nusach that the Chachamim made for us. They knew exactly what they were doing. But in these blessings, you're allowed to include personal requests that are not written in the words that you would like them to be said, as long as it's me'en haberacha. So let's say you want to have somebody who's very sick in mind. He's going through surgery. As you're saying Refaenu, Hosheinu v'nivashea, Kitilatenu ata, ve'aleh rucha marpeh lo tachloenu, please send a speedy recovery, a complete recovery to all our illnesses. And send a special refuah to so-and-so who's going through surgery tomorrow. You can add those words on your own. As long as what you're adding is in the beracha that has to do with it, that's called me'en ha-beracha, you're allowed to. So you are allowed to insert your own words, in any language of course, as long as you do it in the proper place. So in refuah, you can ask for the refuah of someone. Next beracha, I'm sure everybody wants to concentrate a lot on this one. It has to do with parnasah. Right? These days, you want to concentrate on this one. That's the beracha that has to do with parnasah or rain. In the summer, it's barechenu for Sephardim. In the winter, it's barech alenu on the nusach of Sephardi. Ashkenazim have a slightly different nusach over here. The Temanim as well. And I will show you some of those differences soon in the Nuschaot. But basically here, we're asking for Parnasah. We're reminding ourselves that Parnasah comes from heaven, not from our own efforts. We're asking that it should be a productive year, a year of rain, a year that will be full of blessing. And that's what we have to concentrate on when we're saying these words. The next beracha is kibbutz galuyot. Tekah v'shofar gadol lecherutenu. That's also a personal request. We're asking for the ingathering of all the Jews from all corners of the world. And we finish the blessing by saying mekabes nitchei amo Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually does it. And you wonder, perhaps you've wondered, why does it say it in the present tense? The present tense of Mevarech Hashanim, I understand. Present tense of Rofeh Choleh Amo Yisrael, he's always curing, he's always healing, he's always blessing, he's always forgiving. But Goel Yisrael and Mekabetz Nidchei Amo Yisrael, why should those blessings be in the present tense? First of all, Goel Yisrael, when God redeems us, he's redeeming us even from prison. He does that all the time. Like Matir Asurim. Goel Yisrael, there is a Geulah Pratit. For every Jew has his own Geulah, his own redemption from his own tzarot. People are going or have gone through terrible situations of being imprisoned or of being accused of something they never did or they did do. They need a personal Geulah, a personal Yeshua, personal Atzlacha. That's all included in the idea, even though the overall idea is Geulah, redemption. So Goel Yisrael is happening all the time. That's one idea. The second idea is Goel Yisrael, the Geulah of Am Yisrael, has already begun. After the second Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, Mashiach was born already. Mashiach can come at any moment. There's always a small Geulah. Day by day we're getting closer. Even though only Hashem knows the exact date, but there's a continuous Geulah. Every single day, every moment there's a Geulah. We're getting closer. And the same is with Mikabetz Nitchei Amo Yisrael. There are some Jews who are no longer in this lecture because they're in Israel already. They went there, they got there ahead of us. So Mikabetz Nitchei Amo Yisrael, he's continuously bringing people back. In this blessing, you could have another kavanah. I try sometimes to remind myself that in the kibbutz Nidchei Amo Yisrael, when Hashem is gathering those who are dispersed, those include the Baalei Tshuva. They are also nidachim. They have also been lost for a while, and He's bringing them back home. Mekabetz Nidchei Amo Yisrael. There will be, of course, a tremendous kibbutz of all the 10 lost tribes who are totally gone, in a sense gone. They don't even know that they're Jewish, many of them. So that is also happening, but it's happening little by little. Hashem's plans are always working. Do you think nothing is in the works now for Mashiach? Anything that happens in Africa may have something to do with Mashiach. Anything that happens in New Zealand or in Hawaii even, it may have something to do with Mashiach. Somebody giving a speech there, somebody building something there, somebody coming up with an idea there. All of that is Mekabetz Nidchei Amo Yisrael, because Hashem's plans are always in the works. The next request is Ashiva Shofetenu Kevarishona. Ashiva Shofetenu, we're asking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring back justice in the world. Justice in the world is because there is no justice, unfortunately. There's too much corruption, there's too much war, there's too much anguish, yagon v'anaha. We're asking therefore for Hashem to rule. After all, He's the one that's Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat. He loves justice, and we don't have that. So we want to restore the power of the Chachamim, the power of our judges. We want Kadosh Baruch Hu to be the ultimate king and judge. But there's something interfering with that, and that leads us to the next blessing. But I'm going to skip it right now, because I want to get back to that and speak about that separately. That's the Kilui Hasonim. Kilui Hasonim means we want our enemies, the troublemakers, to disappear. I'm going to come back to that. We have the next one is Birkat HaTzadikim. Birkat HaTzadikim is Ala Tzadikim V'ala Chasidim L'Shitam B'Cha B'T Yisrael. Help them, save them, protect them. After all, we depend on you. You're the one that gives Mish'an U'Miftach L'Tzadikim. You're the one that gives them protection, and you're the one that supports them. This bracha is right after the other bracha of asking for the disappearance of the Reshaim, because they are the ones that are causing trouble. The tzaddikim don't have peace. The tzaddikim cannot express themselves, perform, and do everything that the way they would want to do it if the Reshaim, if the wicked people are not giving them the opportunity to do so. And we've had, unfortunately, many, many times through our history where all kinds of Reshaim, whether dictators, tyrants, and just the masses of non-Jews, gave us trouble in trying to observe the mitzvot. So we're asking for protection for the tzaddikim and for the hasidim, for those who observe the mitzvot, and for the converts too. That Hashem should reward them and reward all those who trust in Him. Then we make a request for Binyan Yerushalayim. Very important idea. For those who in the Galut, they should not forget about Yerushalayim, right? That is why we break a cup, a glass underneath the chuppah, not to forget Yerushalayim. Many Jews who were very comfortable especially forgot about Yerushalayim. They thought that, this is their new home. No, we're waiting anxiously for Binyat Yerushalayim. And what happens after that? We're waiting for Malchut Bet David. So we're asking Tishkom Betoch Yerushalayim, that you should once again reside, the Shekhinah should come back to Yerushalayim, Bonei Yerushalayim, followed by Etzemach David Avdecha Merat Tasmiach. We're asking for Malchut David, the Mashiach, to be restored. Not the Knesset with 120 parties or 120 members. We don't want a prime minister. We don't want to have this kind of system in Israel that is not Jewish, that is partially taken from the Turks, partially taken from the British, and partly taken probably from the communists too. This is not a Jewish system in place today. Totally not. And definitely not the courts in Israel. They're not using biblical Jewish law to determine issues. So we're asking for Tzemach David Avdecha, we're asking for the return of Malchut Be David. And then we come finally to the last bracha of Shomea Tefillah. This is the last bracha of the Emtzaiyot, of the middle ones. Now this one is one of the most powerful blessings of all. You know why? Shomea Tefillah, you can have anything in mind over here. Here we're asking Hashem to listen to all our prayers that we've just said. Very important to say amen to this bracha. This particular bracha, very important to say amen. Obviously, we need to say amen to all the blessings, but here you have to figure out, if you've come late to shul, you sometimes are better off not starting Amidah on your own and waiting for the Chazan to say Shomea Tefillah, depending on where you are and where he's holding. You want to say amen, if possible, or possible, to this very special beracha. Shomea, because Hashem basically was saying He listens to the prayers. He wants us to pray and He listens. And in this blessing, it's a very general blessing. We're saying Shema Kolenu. Listen to our prayers. Don't let our prayers go empty-handed. Baruch atah Hashem shomea tefillah. Blessed are you that listens to our prayer. So in this prayer, if you're still single, looking to get married, have a hard time finding a job, have no children, have no friends, maybe, whatever it is, have some problem with some neighbor, ask Hashem for help in resolving this matter. You have a lawsuit, you have a lawyer that's gypping you, right, ripping you off, right, whatever it may be. Everything can be mechuvan. Anything, whatever it may be that you have not said before, you can include it here. And even if you mentioned it before, whether it was refuah or parnasa, you can have it mentioned here again in Shomea Tefillah. As long as your prayer is reasonable, your request is reasonable. Don't ask Hashem, let's make a deal. Let me win the lottery and I'll give you 50-50. Right? Hashem says, no, I don't want you to win the lottery. It's not good for you. Don't make requests where they may not be good. Make a general request. Hashem, you know how much parnasa I need. Send me the right parnasa. Send me the right job. Send me the right, whatever it is that you're asking for. It's not always good to be specific because maybe that's not good for you. Please convince him or convince her to marry me. Whoever told you that she's good for you or that he's good for you? You think so because they're cute, because they're nice, because they're generous. It doesn't mean they're the right one for you. So in Shomea Tefillah, you're asking for guidance. Give me the right one. Parnasa, give me the particular one that is good for me. Refuah, send me to the right doctor. Sometimes doctors make mistakes and they take the place of the angel of death. Malach HaMavet, yeah. Now, even though, of course, everything has been Hashamayim, but if you have a choice, go to the best one, because according to the Kabbalistic tradition, the biggest doctor has the biggest malach with him. The biggest malach with the biggest doctor. So therefore, Jews traditionally always, even if it was more money, if it was something serious, they went to the best doctors. Not because he was more knowledgeable, not necessarily because he had more experience, but because the malach, there was a greater malach with him, accompanying him. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the bracha that I told you with Birkat HaMinim, and I'm going to show you all the versions. And this is a very incredible blessing. How did this come about? Okay, take a quick look. I don't know how much you can read of it, but you will find there 5 nuschaot plus one more extra called Gniza HaKahirit. Gniza HaKahirit, for those of you who never heard of it, they found in Egypt old manuscripts that were in the Gniza. You know what Gniza is? When papers that have Divrei Torah or Sidurim are no longer usable because they're so old and torn, you put it in the Gniza. Anything that has Kedusha, that is holy. Eventually it's buried. There they had a spot in one of the old shuls in Cairo where they used to bury a lot of things. And eventually it was discovered, and they found incredible manuscripts there that shed a lot of light about the customs of years ago, which they had no idea how it was. So that's called Gniza HaKahirit. Now this bracha is called Birkat HaMinim. Birkat HaMinim is a blessing that we make a very unusual request. Here all along we were asking for something special, good for ourselves and our family and friends. Here we're asking for something negative. Destroy them. Get rid of them. Eliminate the minim. And who are the minim? Who are the minim? The minim, the word minim means heretics. Now, remember, we're talking about right after Churban Bayit Sheni, right after. And right after the Churban Bayit Sheni, you know what happened amongst the Jewish people, unfortunately? There were various groups, not one or two, various groups that were not very, let's call them, they were not very friends, they were not so friends of the Jews. They were political, they befriended the Goyim, they associated with the wrong people, they were troublemakers, they were informers, they did not like the Chachamim, who were called the Prushim. You have various levels and various groups of observant, non-observant Jews. And they cause us tremendous trouble. Now, one of those groups that is being formed now about 100, 150 years after the destruction of the temple is the Christians. And who do you think were the first Christians? Jews. So that's part of them. The first Christians are in this blessing. And eventually they figured out they didn't like it. And I'm going to show you what happened. So there's a lot of history behind this bracha. We had 18 original, and this is number 19. They left the name of this prayer Shmoneh because that's the way it originally was. But this blessing was added about 100 years or so after the Churban, 100, 150, in Yavne, where there was a lot of Chachamim that got together there during the days of Rabban Gamliel. He was the chief. Special blessing that the tradition says was composed by Shmuel HaKatan. They were giving us troubles. Okay. Now here, this blessing was obviously important because we're asking Hashem to eliminate these troublemakers. But it was not just to eliminate them, it was also for two more reasons. The second reason was the Chachamim did not want the good Jews, the observant Jews, to associate with these people. So when they put a curse, this is pretty much a curse, in this blessing, in this request, they basically wanted any Jew who had any thoughts of going and joining them to stay away. These guys are out. Therefore, don't have anything to do with them. So we're having here a double purpose, to ask Hashem for help with them, plus to make sure the good Jews who are still okay, stay away from them. But there was a third idea, which I saw somewhere written. The rabbis did not always know who was a troublemaker. How do you know a Jew is your enemy? How do you know he doesn't believe what you believe? How do you know that he's dangerous? Get him to be the Chazan, and if he doesn't say this blessing, you know he's one of them, because he's not going to curse himself. He's not going to curse himself and his friends, because that's what he would be doing. So anytime somebody got up to be a Chazan and he didn't want to say this blessing, they kicked him out. They probably did other things to him too, right? But first of all, they removed him and they publicized him. You know, so and so, he's one of them. So this was a very important beracha that they needed to have in order, of course, to be able to deal with them. But more than just deal with them, to ask Hashem that they should not stand in the way, because these are our own Jewish brothers who are the most dangerous of all. So I chose this as an example, not just because of the history, but because I wanted you to see the various versions here. No, it applies today too, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why in a minute. Now, if you look at the various versions here in the Hebrew, I emphasized in blue the various words, the important words, the key words that are different in Nusachot. So you have the Gnizah Kahirit, then you have the Nusach of the Sfaradim, which is what is being used by the Sephardim. Then you have Nusach Sfarad, which is used by Ashkenazim of the Hasidic tradition. Then you have Nusach Ashkenaz, most of the European Jewry. You Nusach Temani Baladi, which is the original authentic Temani. Then Nusach Italia. The Nusach Italia in this case is not that much different except for one word. But what I wanted you to see is the words in blue. Look how in the first version of the Gnizah Kahirit you have the word that does not appear except for the Temanim. The Temanim have they are the only ones who have this one word that the Gnizah Kahirit has, and that's La Meshumadim. Can you see the word La Meshumadim? You know what a Meshumad is? A Meshumad is any Jew that converted to Christianity or to Islam, to another religion. Even till today in Yiddish they call him HaMeshumed. Rotzach Geschmad is a Yiddish expression. He converted to another religion. Shmad, to go against one's faith by converting into another faith. So they're asking for this particular group of people. Now, why are these other versions not including this word? One explanation is because not everybody understood what Meshumadim is. Right? So they used minim, they used zedim, wicked people, heretics, so that they should understand. Plus, the times have changed over the years. We didn't have perhaps Meshumadim, but we had something similar, a little bit different. But look at the top. Look at the top one. Look at the Gnizah. You have a word there that even the Temanim don't have, and that's called Vehanotzrim. Anybody know what Notzrim means? And the Christians. Why isn't that word in all the other versions? You don't have it in any Siddur today. They took it out. They were afraid. They made them take it out, the Christians. They were very upset. You know what some Christians said when they saw this? These Jews are cursing us 3 times a day. Yeah, Shachrit, Mincha, Arvit. We have it in the Amidah. We have this. Yeah. And you did have throughout the history, unfortunately too many times in many countries, you had a censor that used to censor, right? Remove those things that were anti-Christian. So that's why you don't have the word Notzrim anymore, but you do have the Minim. Minim is heretics in general, one who doesn't believe in God, one who's not of us. And therefore in the various Nuschaot, you have sometimes in parentheses 2 versions of the same thing. Zedim versus Minim. Then you have, of course, in the Nusach HaTemani Baladi, towards the bottom, you have an additional word called Vehamoserim. Moserim is informers. A different kind of traitor. A Jew that informs another Jew, whether he didn't pay his taxes, whether it's because he did something against the law, something else, he's an informer. It's a tremendous avon, tremendous sin to inform another Jew, regardless. Unless he's a danger to society, that's something else. Right? It's still, you can't do it on your own. So here you have various variations of the Nusach, because we're either dealing with different individuals because of the times, or because of the censor, or because there's a preference for a different choice of word that is more understandable to that particular community. And in Nusach Ashkenaz, you even have another clause. May all those who are wicked, even if they're not heretics, wicked people, bad people, may they disappear, may they be gone. And the last one, the Nusach Itah, you have the word v'tachni'a otam. Tachni'a means that you should humble them. We don't want them to be in power. We don't want them to be in powerful positions where they can control us. So the basic request here in the Birkat HaMinim, of Laminim v'Lamalshinim al ti tikva, that they should not succeed in all their efforts, in all what they're trying to do, in all their plots, and that you should remove the wicked and eradicate them and humble them, destroy them, b'mehera v'yameinu, the sooner the better. And who does it? Hashem. So we bless Hashem who does so in making our request. We hope for it, that it should happen very soon. Okay. There are certain hosafot, as you can see on the screen. Hosafot means there are certain additions that we add to the prayer that is not part of the Amidah in itself, but it's either added at certain times of the year, or at the very beginning, or at the very end. For example, Hashem Sefatai Tiftach is a special small request that we make before we begin the Amidah. Hashem should open up our lips. Right? So our mouths can open and say the praises of Hashem. What kind of a request is that? That are we asking Hashem to open up our lips? You open up your own lips. What do you mean? What kind of request is that? So I think the Ben Ish Hai says, I saw it brought down, that he says all we're asking Hashem is that He should excite us enough, that He should give us the push. Of course we're going to do it, but make us excited. Make us want to. In other words, that we should feel excited about approaching you and wanting to utter all this praise. And of course, the last prayer, Elokai Netzor, is the prayer that we say after the Amidah with additional tachanunim, additional requests of all sorts, that Hashem should protect us from all evil after we are done with the tefillah. A special prayer that was added later on that includes additional tachanunim, additional requests for mercy. We have a Tachon Antano that we say on Motzei Shabbat, which includes in it the Havdalah. Besides the Havdalah we make at home on the candle with Besamim, we have the Tachon Antano in the prayer of the Arvit of Motzei Shabbat. We have Yalev Yavo, which is said during the holidays and during Rosh Chodesh. We have the prayer Ala Nisim, which is said also Chanukah and Purim. We have the prayer of Nahem that unfortunately we're going to soon say in Tisha B'Av, in making the request and prayer to Hashem that He console us, comfort us, Nahem on Yerushalayim. And we have Anenu, which is a special prayer said during fast days, or anytime a person is Be'et Sarah, there was no rain, they would have made a special prayer to seek Hashem's help. Besides the regular prayer, a special prayer. What we see from all of these is that there are certain prayers that are said at certain times. For what reason? For what reason at certain times? So a person can remember the day. It's no longer just a prayer and just a request. It's also to remember the Me'urah. We want to remember Pesach. We want to remember Purim. We want to remember Rosh Chodesh, what it was, a special day, special Korban. So we want to mention something of that day, otherwise that day is lost, the day is gone. So something is being mentioned for that day. All the requests, however, that we've made are not said on Shabbat, because Shabbat is not a time to make personal requests. We give thanks to Hashem, we praise Hashem, a personal request about Parnassah, not on Shabbat. That is why those things are left out. Okay. We have just a few more ideas in the Amidah. We have Alachot and Minhagim. I put together here a list just for you to see here of several things that happen in the Amidah that are important. Kavanah we spoke about already. Kavanah means to be focused, to concentrate, to know what you're saying. It's important as much as possible that you not rush through the prayer, but if you want it to be effective, that you at least understand what you're saying. Even if you cannot do it in the whole prayer, at least portions of it. Amidah is said is belachash. It's called tefillah belachash. It's a prayer that is said quietly. This is a special prayer, remember, that is the climax of after we prepared ourselves with all the other prayers and songs of Asher Shvetecha, of the Kriyat Shema. So this is the climax. We come to the Amidah, we want to even have greater concentration, and we do so quietly, in a respectful way, not to bother the one who's praying next to us. There are various reasons why this prayer is done quietly, the one that we do, not the Chazan. In other words, that we should be able to focus and to not bother. We say it quietly. We do it standing up, straight. This is also a combination of, we remind ourselves that we are like angels right now in serving Hashem out of reverence and kavod. We don't do so sitting down. In other words, we do so realizing that we're standing here before the King. So all of this is to prepare our mind to properly focus on what we're doing. We're not sitting with our legs crossed chewing gum, not even having a cup of coffee or smoking, right? This is not how you approach the King. We're doing it with raglaim smudot, with our feet like malachim. Also, like we're ready to approach the King. So our feet are together, close together. Now we're not just standing like this. How are you doing? I came to see you. I have a request. No, this is real. This is serious. So we stand not as though. In reality, we are standing before Him. There's various times, actually 5 times, that we bow. During the first blessing, during the blessing of Modim, Anachmulach, and right as we're going back from the Amidah. The kriyat of the bowing down is also a form of kavod. Where do you think the Japanese learned that from? Well, when they bow. Right? They don't shake your hand, they bow. So a bow is a form of kavod. Yadayim al hachazeh. Now this one is very interesting. How do you hold? What do you do with your hands when you're praying Amidah? Now, this one is interesting. It all depends which country you came from. In some countries, this was the custom. The right hand over the left hand. This is a way to approach, and this is one of the ways that's brought down in the halakha of where and how you should hold your hands as you're praying. Who does this? I mean, yes. Can you please help me? You know, it's a form of begging, a form of kavod. This is one way. Believe it or not, there was a custom in some places, in some of the Muslim countries, to put your hands behind your back. Like, what does that show? Their mentality was, you know, it's like, it's not up to me. I have nothing on my own. You know, it's all, you know, I'm asking for your help. That is another way of showing kavod. Others just hold their hands straight down. Either way is fine, right? All of this was just a way of expressing kavod. Then we have the gisha va'akira. Gisha va'akira is how do we approach? With 3 steps. How do we finish? Also by taking back 3 steps. And we begin with the left foot when we go back to show that it's difficult for us. All of this that we do, part of this ritual, is to train us, to remind us what we're doing now. Where, before whom are we standing? We don't just rush in, I'm here, you know. No, we approach slowly. We're about to begin our request. We're about to begin our prayer. This is serious business. And we don't want to leave, so we leave slowly. We take 3 steps. All of this because we realize how important this is. The next point, the itnaneut, is you will notice some people shaking as they're saying the Amidah. Not everybody had this custom, and it's not part of the halakha necessarily, even though it's correct to do so, because it's supposed to strengthen your kavanah. As the pasuk says, Kol atzmotai tomarna, all my body and all my bones want to express themselves to the Almighty. So it's a way of shaking you up. Perhaps, especially in the morning, you might be sleepy. You know, this might get you out of the sleep. Whatever it is, it helps to concentrate. Then we have Kivun Yerushalayim. We're always facing Yerushalayim. If you're in Yemen, you're facing north. If you're in Los Angeles, you're facing east. If you are in China, you're facing west. If you're in Russia, you're facing north, south, right? Depending where you're, if you're in Israel, you're facing Yerushalayim. If you're in Yerushalayim, you're facing the Western Wall. And if you're by the Western Wall, of course, you're facing the Kodesh HaKodashim. So this, I mean, if you don't know where you are, where's north and west and south and east, and you don't have a compass, and you can't see where the sun is, then you can pray no matter where you are in whatever direction you want to. But preferably and ideally, that is the halakha, that is the minhag, in order that we should focus on Yerushalayim. That is where the prayers are going through. That is where Hashem will receive our prayers. And then, of course, we have the importance of Aniyat Amen, which perhaps we'll speak about at another time, maybe next week. Perhaps next week I think it may be the last one of this series, where we will finish up with the tefillah, and I will explain the importance of minyan, the job of the Hazan, and what the Bet HaKnesset is all about, the difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazim, and how to build a shul. It's a very interesting, the history behind how the first shuls were built. That's another time. But just to let you know that Amen is something very, very powerful. Amen is said during the Hazara. So I want to just briefly touch about and talk a little bit about the Hazara, which happens after we finish the Amidah. After each individual finishes the Hazara, the Amidah, there's something called Hazara. What's Hazara? The Chazan reviews or repeats what was just said. This was enacted because many people did not know how to pray. Many people did not know how to pray, therefore they were not fulfilling their obligation. You had the Hazan say it for them. You know where we have it today also? In Kriyat Torah. Not everybody that goes up, makes the blessing, reads the Torah, except by the Tamanim. There is a Baal Koreh, somebody that reads it for them. They don't know how to read. The Tamanim know how to read because they're trained from when they're very, very small. No matter where they went, they all know how to read, pretty much. Hazara is for the Hazan to include us. He says it out loud, and then everybody should be listening to him and saying Amen. When you listen and answer Amen, you're included in that beracha. In the Hazara, what happens? We have 3 things that we didn't have before. We have the Kedusha, Kadosh, 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 a very important part of the tefillah. We have 3 times in the whole tefillah of Shachrit that we have this kedusha. In Shachrit we have Yotzer Or, we have the kedusha of the Amidah, Shmonese, and we have the kedusha of Uva L'Tzion Goel, which we'll speak about next week. Very important part of the prayer is this kedusha that contains pesukim from the Nevuah of Yechezkel, from the Merkavah, talking about what the Malachim, how they praise Hashem. So we include ourselves in basically giving this praise 3 times, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. We have the Modim de Rabbanan. The last 3 blessings, as I said earlier, include the blessings of giving thanks. They begin with the Tfilat HaAvodah. Tfilat HaAvodah is when we ask Hashem to restore the service of the Bet HaMikdash, Retzeh. Then we have the Modim Anachnu Lach, that we thank Hashem for everything that He does, all the miracles that He performs for us. And the last one is the last one is Sim Shalom, that we ask for Hashem's, and we ask and we also praise and thank Hashem that He will bring peace al Am Yisrael, as we say, as we end up Amvarech et Amo Yisrael Bashalom. So all of these last 3 blessings are called Birkot HaOda'ah, giving thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One is in asking for the service of the Bet HaMikdash to be restored, which finishes with a Mahazir Shechinato L'Tzion, that He brings back the Shekhinah to Tzion, in giving us thanks for it, in giving Him thanks for it, and in the Modim Anachnu Lach, in giving Him thanks for everything else that He does. And that finishes with a Tov Shimcha L'Chana Leodot. The third beracha is, as I said before, Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha, that you should put a blessing, give a blessing for all the Jewish people. So here we're asking for a blessing for everybody else. And again, this is a blessing of thanks in that Hashem brings this about. So we have in the Hazara, as we're getting close towards the end, we have the Modim de Rabbanan. When the Chazan says his version of the Modim, we answer in turn another small version of Modim, which is giving thanks. It's called the Rabbanan because the rabbis added this later on. It's a small prayer that you allowed us to stay alive, to be able to perform and do your mitzvot. And the last idea, the last portion that is said in the Amidah is Birkat HaKohanim, is the blessing of the Kohanim, which in some communities it happens every day. In Ashkenazi communities, for the most part, only during the holidays. There's a reason for that in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, why they only do it during holidays. But in Israel, pretty much everybody does it all the time. The blessing of the Kohanim, this particular blessing was around even before the Bet HaMikdash. This is something that is written in the Torah. And this is something that we include in Tefillah, even if there are no Kohanim. The Chazan himself says it, not the individuals. Reminding us that ultimately, even though the Kohanim are blessing us, the real blessing comes from Hashem. So when we go ask for a blessing, you don't have to go to anybody for a blessing. In reality, the blessings come from Hashem. Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. He's the one that will bless you, and therefore He is the one that you have to thank for everything. Thank you. Bezat Hashem will continue next week with the Kaddish and with the other portion of the Tefillah.